Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Let's Play the Blueprints. It's been quite a while since I've posted anything to my channel. Quite a long while, I would say, and this seemed to me to be a good game to return to Let's Plays with. Uh, I wouldn't describe myself as somebody who typically enjoys puzzle games, and I wouldn't seek out playing them normally. But I think this is an interesting game for me personally to experiment with in order to see, well, what happens if I put myself through doing a game like this. Because usually I would just approach a puzzle game like this with a kind of indifference. What's the point? Why bother? Why use your mind this way when you could be doing anything else? And I think as an exercise in discomfort, this is going to be an interesting process. Now, I personally have not gone into this blind. I've seen a fair bit of the game before by watching SB's Let's Play of this game. But I will say, because of my usual attitude towards puzzle games, I haven't really retained very much in terms of how to solve any of the puzzles or how everything really relates to one another. So I've got my notebook here for taking notes, and I will actually go through and learn the game instead of just seeing things happen and kind of vibing to it. So yeah, let's get started with a new game of Blueprints.
I, Herbert S. Sinclair of the Mount Holly Estate at Reddington, do publish and declare this instrument my last will and testament, and hereby revoke all wills and codicils heretofore made by me. I give and bequeath to my grandnephew, Simon P. Jones, son of my dear niece, Mary Matthew, all of my right, title, and interest in and to the house and land which I own near Mount Holly. The above provision and bequest is contingent on my aforementioned grandnephew discovering the location of the 46th room of my 45-room estate. The location of the room has been kept a secret from all the staff and servants of the manor, but I am confident that any heir worthy of the Sinclair legacy should have no trouble uncovering its whereabouts within a timely manner. Should my grandnephew fail to uncover this room or provide proof of his discovery to the executors of my will, then this gift shall lapse. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this 18th day of March, 1993. Herbert S. Sinclair.
All right then. So, first things first, I need to remember to turn on my normal keyboard layout. Okay, there we go. WASD. So yes, I've noted down that our grand uncle, as the protagonist, is Herbert S. St. Clair. Our mother, who is his niece, is Mary Matthew, and our protagonist is Simon. So, how does this game work? Um, well, you can see at the top left there is a step count, and this is like your budget, your hit points almost for each day that you go through this mansion, where you draft different rooms from a set of 3 in each door that you open up. And your other key resources are keys, which open locked doors, gems, which open more valuable rooms, and finally, there are coins, which you can use to buy things and interact with some of the features of this manor. Um, as our granduncle said, our goal here is to reach room 46. And now let's see here. What exactly? There we go. There we have some things. We have a directory of rooms. That these are the rooms we can draft. Then they're categorized, and I'm curious how we pull up our map, but we'll see. So here's a letter to us from our grand uncle. Open only in the event of my death. Noticeably, there is a postage stamp on the top right here that has a tall sail ship, and maybe there's a message here which we will be able to read with the magnifying glass. It has the 4 on it, and this is a blue stamp. So, Simon, welcome to Mount Holly. You may not remember, but I have fond memories of your many visits here as a young boy, and I hope these rooms provide you with as much amusement as it did in those lost summer days. There's some grammar issues with the writing in this game. Please bear with it. By the time you read this, I will assume you are fully aware of my last wishes and all the details of the bequest. Please do not mistake my intentions in giving you this challenge as a lack of confidence. I assure you, nothing could have been further from my mind when I chose you as my heir. With that said, there are a few ground rules of this commission covered in the fine print of my will that I feel I should bring to your attention. No tools or items may be brought onto the estate from the outside. Tools and items found on the estate may not be taken off the estate, and you may not stay overnight. I don't suspect that any of these stipulations should provide an impediment or prove an impediment for someone as resourceful as yourself, but it is very important to me that you start fresh each morning and not rely on the successes of the previous day. So this is indeed a roguelite game. Your inventory, with some exceptions, gets wiped at the end of each run, which is a day, and the mansion itself largely gets reset. There's again some exceptions, but that's basically how it works. One final word of advice. Do not assume the rooms you find today will be the same rooms you find tomorrow. These grounds have provided me a home for the last half-century, and even I am uncertain of which room lies beyond any particular door. Your grandmother used to say, "Don't go where the path leads, abandon the path and go where you want it to lead." With all my love and wishes, best of luck, Herbert S. St. Clair. Great. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. You must have blueprints to draft, so we will grab our blueprints. The blueprints. The Mount Holly blueprint. This will serve as a useful map and inventory log during your adventure. So this is how we access our map, of course. It wanted us to access the map. Okay, so you see here, this is the grid of the mansion. We have the entrance hall and we have the antechamber, and these are always present from run to run. And everything that is blue in between and on the sides are spaces that we can fill up with rooms that we draft. You also notice at the bottom right there is a call it a day button, and that will end our run and let us reset and start over again. So importantly, we see that there are the mansion is a grid of 9 by 5, right? So 45 rooms total, including the antechamber and entrance hall. And then there is room 46, which is not in the grid, of course. So let's... I think the best way for me to work with this grid would be to create a separate sheet of information for myself. So I will get another piece of paper separate from my notebook, which I can fill in. Or maybe I should just make one on my notebook. So let's try that. Let's try that. Of course, you can't see this on the screen, but it is very important that I have some kind of way of keeping track of what we learn about the mansion. And there we go. And then it is 5. Now, I apologize for the dead air here, but this shouldn't happen too often. And 9. Okay, done. So let's move on. Well, we will begin by drafting some rooms. There is, of course, also this. Yeah, these are the rules about the steps. We've already talked about that. Let's go. So, we can always look at the map here to see what rooms are surrounding us and what the implications are of whatever we might draft. So one thing we want to do is to try to keep our options open by keeping some doors open, and we will do that with the hallway here. Check around, see if there's anything to pick up. We have a red note. Doors in the west wing are more likely to be locked. Okay, sure. And given that we are at the end, we are on the west wing here, We could go pantry or parlor and still move. Do we want coins? I think let's try the parlor. So the parlor says, okay, there's a note from May the 2nd. Parlor. We have a note from May 2nd from M. Lowry to Herbert. Okay. It was a great honor receiving the invitation to dine at your estate with the Oldhams this past Thursday. If I'm being frank, it had been quite a while since we had been seen in decent society, and we were beginning to worry that my wife's wit had lost its charm. I have no delusion that my company is rival to hers. If I can refresh your memory, we both spent much of that evening discussing our mutual love of games and puzzles, and I had mentioned to you a rather singular parlor game I had played some years back involving 3 boxes of different colors. You had pressed me to write with the particulars of this game when I found the time, and I have included with this letter all the details you will need to share with guests should you be inclined to play this confounding game. Always your friend, M. Lowry. So here are the rules. There will always be at least one box which displays only true statements. There will always be at least one box which displays only false statements. Only one box has a prize within. The other 2 are always empty. So there is always a true box, an exclusively true box, and there is always an exclusively false box. And one box has a prize, the other 2 are always empty. Okay, so we pick this up. The wind-up key, which we use to open the boxes. So here we go. The statement on the white box is true. There is a second wind-up key in this room. So this is almost certainly false, but we can confirm that that is the case. In fact, that is the case. So this is a false box. This box and the white box are both empty. So if this is true and this is false, the statement on the white box is true. Well, that's false. So it would be the case that this is false. This is also false, because there is no second wind-up key in this room, which means that this box must be true. This box and the white box are both empty, so then the answer is it must be in the blue box. Correct, and we get our first gems. So these gems, as I said, can be used to draft more valuable rooms when they come up in our 3 options. So let's try going up the west wing here. We could take the west wing hall to go further up. I shouldn't say north. I don't know what the directions are, but up. And we could take the bedroom to get some steps. The storeroom is nice because it would give us a key, and we don't have a key. But I don't... Well, maybe, given our situation, we should take the hit and block this off and then try going around this way when we want to go up. Because we don't have a key, and that is not good. So I'm going to take the storeroom. Okay, so I'm noting that there is a pawn in the storeroom. There is a pawn in the storeroom. A white pawn. And what's this? What's this? Oh, what a little cutie. And there's a picture of a blueprint of the same dimensions as the manor, and it says E in this square. So I'm going to write that in on our grid. E. Okay. And let's see. Plane. There's a plane and some birds. And this might be a plan. And the difference is E. So to be clear, I have seen this puzzle solved before. I do not remember at all what the answer is to the question. But from what I remember, the point of this puzzle is to take the word represented in one of the pictures and the word represented in the other and find out what the extra letter is. So plane and plan, and then we get an E. Okay. So I've written that in the journal. And here we have a pudding and a desert. So dessert and desert. Dessert. Let me see, because my spelling memory is failing me here. So that would be an S, I believe, right? Dessert and desert. There's an extra S in dessert. So I'm going to write that down. S. Okay. And is there anything else? There's a picture of Herbert S. St. Clair here, I believe. I think that's him from what I remember from the cinematic. So I guess this was his parlor. Well, of course it was. It was his mansion. And then we have this hallway, and the hallway has pray and pry. So an A. A. Is there anything else? I don't think so. So let's draft something here. We could take the chapel, and we would lose our only coin using it. Is that really of value? I think we should take the corridor so we can keep going north. And what's this? Okay, no, I thought there might be something in that box. We have star and stare. So, I. Right? Stare. S-T-A-I-R versus star. Yeah, I. Is that right? Stare. Star. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yep. Sorry, I have a really hard time with spelling if I don't actually write it down on a piece of paper. Doing it mentally is more challenging for me. So, we'll work with that. The den gives us options to go left or right. The closet gives us no options. It gives us some items. And the chapel is basically just a worse version of the den for us. So let's draft the den. Okay, so there's a clock here, which I think is maybe functional. It seems to be, the minute hand seems to be moving in real time, but it's definitely accelerated. So I wonder if I should time how long each hour actually lasts. That could be tedious for you to watch, but it might be worth doing. Okay, so let's try to solve this while we're waiting for that. So here we have tier and tie. Tier and tie. Okay. So we're here. Tier and tie. So that is an R. We get a gem here. So let's grab that. There's a clock here. This clock is also functional. So I'm going to note in my book here that the den has, it has 2 functional clocks, and I believe they are synchronized to the same time, but let's see. Yes, they are. Okay, so that does help us confirm that that is that they are running correctly, perhaps. And there is a white pawn in the den. Oh, there's more clocks. They're all synchronized. Okay, so we have actually 4 functional clocks in here. 4 functional. No, 5. There's another one. 5 functional clocks. Are there any more? Is there like a watch in here or something? No, I don't think so. Okay. So we're coming up on the hour. So I will set a timer, a stopwatch, I should say, for when we click over to the start of the next hour. And I will go basically half the time, or a quarter of the time, and then quadruple that value, so we're not sitting here for the full hour. So, and now. Well, I suppose I could just take this value and then multiply it by 12 or 11, right? But maybe I should do the quarter just to make it super simple for myself and my somewhat mathematically or arithmetically challenged brain. So bear with me here until we're done with this. I think it's gonna come down to, oh, interesting. I thought it was gonna be a minute 30, but I don't think that's the case. So that was a minute 50. So minute 50 times 4. Obviously there's probably some give and take there. In terms of the precision of when I started the stopwatch. So okay. So minute 50, that's 110 seconds. 10 seconds multiplied by 4, 440 divided by 60. Oops. 440. Okay, so so potentially 8 minutes. 8 minutes in an hour ish. Maybe 7 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes in an hour, something like that. 7 to 8 minutes in an hour. Okay. Well, let's just hope I got that right, because, me and arithmetic, not the best friends. Okay. Let's see. We have a nook, which would give us a key. We have a commissary. We only have 1 coin, and that would cost us a gem. And we have an observatory. We get a star for each time we've drafted the observatory. I think... We have 4 gems, so let's take the observatory. Okay. Now, is this a puzzle? I think we need to move this so it's facing out, obviously, because we're not going to be able to see much of anything if the telescope is not facing the outdoors. Okay, it's almost done. Oops, did I make it go the wrong... Oh, I did. Okay, I see. It's like highlighted which way it will go on the mouse cursor. Oh, but it's stuck there. Okay. Oh, because... I see, because it's too... it's in the way. That is in the way. So then... The landing there is in the way. Can I manipulate this from here? No. Can I... Okay, so we can angle it up, and then we can turn it around. Very easy spatial reasoning puzzle. Hopefully. Maybe I've spoken too soon, but let's see. Yep, that was not hard. Okay. So, what do we see? A star. The North Star. Gain 1 coin. Okay, fine. Thank you. We have this book here. Okay, so we have in the observatory... the fixed stars. The Stargazer's companion, 2 constellations by a Richard Witt. And that was published in 1809 by Infenaries. Published in Fenaries by Bird and Sons Publishing. Now, I wonder, does this have something to do with the bird that we saw in the other room? The cute little bird. Okay. And these could be significant. The shape of these stars could be significant. So let's just draw. There's 3 stars. And we'll draw what they look like. So straight, 8 lines straight, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 dotted lines as well. Okay. All right, because I don't know if that's significant, honestly, but it's worth noting down. All right. Preface. This book contains a complete starbase, a list of constellations, and the observed effects that accompany the appearance of each one. Depending on the number of stars that can be seen in the sky on any given day, different constellations of various sizes may be visible, sometimes more than one on a single day. This book, a solid base for astronomy, will help you easily identify these constellations, impress your friends, and discover the joy of stargazing. So North Star, that is the North Star. Okay, so that's what the North Star looks like. There's 3 of them in the book, but this is the design of the North Star. Okay. All the stars actually have this, but maybe it's significant that we start with the North Star. So I'll just put a question mark next to that note I made. So next time we come here, we'll get 2 trunks added to the entrance hall. Then we get a pizza slice constellation, 3 steps, a gem for 4, the Southern Cross, more common 4 doors, the Farmer's Apple, extra delicious apples, Clavis the key is 8. 11 is Diamondus Major, so presumably because these don't step up one by one, on the days in between there's more than one constellation. Draxus the Dead end runes are more common. 15 is the Sail, everything is 50% off. For L'Orealis, the bloom of the sky, the green rooms are more likely to contain special flowers. That's a 20. It's quite a ways off. And that's the last one. Okay. So what do we have for our picture in here? And what is the piece? Okay, so the observatory is white night. And the pictures here are a road and a rod, so it's an A. And we are there, so that's A. Okay. So, what about this? Do we think this is significant? The planets. We have... It looks like this solar system has 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in it. I will make a note of that. I don't know what the significance of that is, but the solar system model has 5 planets. And I don't know if there's anything else of interest in here. Let's take a quick look. There's a globe. We can spin the globe. It seems like we are not on Earth. This is not Earth. As we can see, these continents are not the continents of Earth, or at least this planet that is represented here is not Earth. And what about this one? Again, it's... Do these even... Is this even the same planet? It is. I think it's the same planet. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, so yeah, not Earth. We are not on Earth. Probably. Okay. So that's good to know. We can go south, or we could head back to the den and try to go up. Let's see if we can link back to the entrance hall here. We have a spare room, we have a guest bedroom, and we have the security room, which would not link back to the entrance hall, but which would allow us to keep going in that east, the right direction. So let's try that. Okay, so we come in here. Oh, cutscene. So we get a good look at Simon here. Is there anything notable about him we should be paying attention to? He's wearing blue, seems to have blue eyes. There's, okay, reel-to-reel recorders. Probably computerized. There's a computer in here. He's not wearing any rings that I can see on his fingers. And he has a hat. There's no real distinguishing features. So what do we have here? We have like a trophy kind of place, a storeroom, some stacks, a piano room, maybe a classroom. That's me. Okay, well, he's being surveilled. We can take that from here. He's being surveilled. Okay, and I guess let's take a look at these rooms. So there's a vault. There's a ballroom, a swimming pool, some kind of treasure exhibition room, like a gallery, a restaurant. I don't know what that is. I've seen this room before in someone else playing it, but I don't know what it is. Archives or stacks, a baby's room, a nursery, an office, a closet, I think this is one of those spare rooms. I think this is the room we were just in with the extra stuff. What was it? The storeroom. There's a hallway here. There's another one of those nook restaurant things. Another video of the same vault, or is it a different vault? The same vault, I think. And then we have what looks like a wine cellar and a library, and then another video of that piano room. Okay, so I'm just gonna note down for the security room which rooms have more than one monitor. So there's the vault, the piano room. And is that in fact the same camera? It looks like it's not the same camera, but it's the same room. For the Nook thing. That it's the same room, but the camera angle is slightly different. So this is the Nook has 2 cameras at different angles. Okay. And I think that was it for the duplicates. I think that's it. Okay, so what else we got going on here? Blue memos are true and red memos are lies. Okay. Blue equals true. Red equals lie. What do these say? Tape. Okay. Now there's a computer here. A cam, B cam. So maybe that's like for the rooms that have 2. Okay, so these are false and these are true. Okay, and then we have the thing, bridge and bride. So that would be a G, right? Okay, so we are here. G. Okay, so this is probably, this line is probably 8 that I see here. I'm just going to put it in the top corner as a potential thing. Okay, staff notice. Effective the first week of December. First week of December. So, first week of December. The payroll for all live out and seasonal staff will be managed electronically. As your attendance will no longer be registered at morning roll call, it is doubly important that you do not fail to clock in and out at one of the electronic computer terminals on the estate. 2 of these terminals can be found at security, where the punch clock used to be, and in the laboratory. Any questions or concerns regarding this process should be directed, as always, to our house manager, Mrs. Babbage. So Mrs. Babbage is the house manager. And some year in the first week of December, they switched payroll for the live out and the seasonal staff to an electronic system. December, what year? First week. Switched to electronic payment for live out and seasonal staff. So presumably there are also live-in staff. If there are live-out staff, there are probably live-in staff. And I'm willing to bet that Mrs. Babbage is a live-in staff. Because she's the house manager. And it seems unlikely, it's not impossible, but it seems unlikely that she would be included in the people to whom this is addressed. Then we also have a terminal password which starts with the letter S. starts with the letter S. That's S something. And okay. Let's look at this. The keycard access security doors are more likely to appear in the higher ranks of the estate. Likewise, as a redundant security measure, normal doors in the estate will also be more likely to be locked as you progress north. Okay. Oh, so that is north. Up is north. Okay, good to know. That makes things easier for describing the situation. So I'm just going to note that down. Up on map equals north. Until further notice, the antechamber has been unlocked and access levers are no longer required to grant entry. So the truth is the antechamber has been locked and access levers are required to gain entry or grant entry. Okay. Yeah, sure. We need access levers for the antechamber. Access levers for antechamber. Okay. The microwave doesn't do anything. These I don't think do anything. Doesn't honestly look like there's actually a reel going, a tape going between them. So I don't know if these are even functional. Am I not seeing this correctly? Because it looks to me like those are two reels. Yeah, the left reel has no tape on it, and the right reel has tape on it. So these aren't working, right? Because there would need to be some kind of magnetic head that the tape would be running along for some kind of data to be transmitted or recorded. So maybe the surveillance cameras are running, but there's no data being recorded. All right, welcome to Mount Holly Security. Press enter. Okay, we can view the estate inventory. We haven't missed anything. The current detailed list of items currently in the house. We have collected everything that's available. The keycard system. Security doors are doors within the estate that can only be unlocked with an electronic keycard. The keycard system is currently operational. So the keycard system settings. The security level and the offline mode. Okay, the security level determines the amount of keycard security doors that will be deployed in your estate. For example, you should expect to see 1 or 2 security doors with a low setting and 5 or 6 with a high setting. So presumably medium is 3 or 4. Well, we don't have a key, so let's do that. And then we'll change the offline mode. This mode determines the default setting the security doors will be set to if the power is lost during a blackout, for example. As a general safety rule, offline mode should be set to unlocked if any staff are working on the estate. Okay, well, I'm not staff, but I am on the estate, so let's do that. Exit. All right. So we have 1 door out of here. We have a key and 2 gems. Wait, I'm looking the wrong way. That's west. This is east. Okay, so we could draft chapel, archives, or courtyard. Archives, we did see on the security camera. While drafting, you will no longer be able to see all 3 of your potential floor plans. The chapel loses us gold or coins when we enter. And the courtyard requires to spend a gem. But the chapel does go north, and the archives go north, and the courtyard does not. So we have 41 steps left, so we're not too bad on steps. It would be quite annoying to... Well, yeah. It would be annoying to have archives because then we wouldn't see our potential floor plans, but at the same time, I think probably everything we draft on this run is going to be new. So I say let's go archives and just take what we get, because we're just learning stuff this run, right? All right, the archives. The archives. Nothing in there. Nothing in there. Got some spooky music in the archives. Can we go up? No, we cannot go up. We've got bat and bath, so that is an H. So that confirms that this is almost certainly 8 on this line. And we have a key. Oh, we got a key. It's just a key. It's a real key. I thought that was like on the book, the design of the book. All right, Marigold wins Herald Literary Honor. Do we have a Marigold? Well, we know that the protagonist's mother's name is Mary Matthew, and this person's name is Marion Marigold. So they at least have the same initials. Archives. So we have Marion Marigold equals MM. Same as Mary Matthew. Okay. And this is so August 22nd, 1985, the same year I was born, but wrong planet apparently. 22nd, 1985. I assume. Oh, sorry, I'm assuming it's 1985 because it looks modern. Well, maybe 1985. That's a very weird thing to do. Is write that as an apostrophe 85 when you're actually archiving something. That is a terrible archiving practice. Nobody would actually do that. Okay, so she wins the Herald Literary Honor. Popular children's writer Marion Marigold adds another feather to her scholastic cap when she discovered on Thursday that her picture book, Swimbird, had been chosen as the Herald Literary Medal Illustrated Book of the Year. This is Marigold's second time winning this prestigious honor. The previous medal was, of course, for her debut effort. So she won one second literary medal for Swimbird. And there's one previous book she also won for. So sometime before 85. She was no stranger to the public eye, even before her literary success. The niece and... Oh, well, it says right there, Mary began using Marigold as a pen name to free her from political associations that one might make with the Sinclair family. Oh, okay, so we learned that she is indeed... Yes, Mary Marigold is Mary Matthew. Okay, and... So presumably Mary's wait, okay, so Herbert S. St. Clair was Mary's uncle. So presumably her mother was Herbert's sister because she did not inherit the St. Clair name, right? So, so presumably her mother, Herbert's sister, and the St. Clair family is politically controversial, let's say. Okay. So, January 27th of 86. We have another story written by the same paper that awarded her, and it says, Swinburne author never considered herself success. By Gail Hermes, the Herald staff writer. Okay, I'll write this down. Gail Hermes with the Herald paper. She confided, my son was the one that actually got me to start writing. I had always challenged myself to never tell him the same story twice at bedtime, and so as we ran out of books we owned, my imagination had to take over from there. Marigold has elaborated in previous interviews that her debut book, Red Prince, okay, so the first book was Red Prince. Red Prince. Is based on her son, based on us, and his inflexible love of the color red. Okay, so Red Prince based on Simon and loves red. A statement that has been held with much skepticism by the many pundits that viewed that book as a rather thinly veiled political critique of the Royalist Party and their unwavering blind loyalty to the throne. So potentially the St. Clairs are anti-royalist. And that means, well, we'll see once we get to take a look at that book, okay? And we also know that Simon was born prior to 85. Because he was the subject of the Red Prince. All right, so November 11th, 86, so late the same year. So publisher and author detained by Red Guard questioned. Caleb Manning and his publisher Philip White were two of the 36 names that appeared on a leaked dossier naming them a person of interest in the Trinsdale bombing that killed 4 people last Tuesday. Although no group has come forward to officially take responsibility for the attack, it is widely believed by authorities to be the work of the insurgent group RLCF, who also call themselves the Children of Blackwater. Ruffington Press was quick to dismiss the rumors in a statement released on Friday, maintaining that the popular author and Mr. White were simply victims of an unfortunate happenstance, whatever that means. This would not be the first time that the publishing house has defended a rogue employee. 3 years ago, so in '83, an associate editor of the company was arrested for criminal conspiracy, although the charges were later dropped. Okay, so we learned. So there's Caleb Manning is an author. With Ruffington Press. And Philip White was an associate. They were arrested in association with the Trinsdale bombing. And the Trinsdale bombing, presumably, because the first two articles were about Mary Matthew, is somehow connected to Mary Matthew. Maybe. And we've also learned that maybe the secret police are called, or maybe like a paramilitary or something, are called the Red Guard. So probably the Royalist faction is red, right? Equals red, maybe. And we have the RLCF. So what do those stand for, right? What does that mean? What does that stand for? Children of the Black Water. Okay. And in '83, the Ruffington associate editor. In 1983, probably, Ruffington associate editor arrested on criminal conspiracy charges. But we don't know his name. Presumably, so probably not Manning or White, because otherwise they would have mentioned them by name here if they had any sense as newspaper article writers. All right, so November 17th, I also noticed that it's interesting that the press is called Ruffington, and the Herald is called Reddington. Is that letter substitution somehow significant? Right? So Ruffington to Reddington, because presumably Reddington is a town, right? Is U to E letter substitution significant? Okay, so November 17th, and the year is not stated. November 17, no, year not known. but certainly after 85, after 85, it must be after 85, right? After at least January 27, 86. So it'd be sometime. Oh, let's double check this. The local author and popular personality Marian Marigold has announced her split with her long-term publishing partner Ruffington Press. So if it's long-term, and was this published by Ruffington? Blah blah blah. The first book, Red Prince. So we can't be sure. We can't be sure actually that Ruffington published Red Prince and Swimbird. But let's so there's a question there. Did Ruffington publish Swimbird and Red Prince? Blah blah blah. Does not say anything about those two books. But there are Manning and White. We see Manning and White there. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that because they may come up somewhere else in a picture and we could identify them. So, local author and popular personality Marian Marigold has announced their split with her long-term publishing partner Ruffington Press, citing personal reasons. The announcement came after the arrest last week of last week. Okay, so this is definitely in 86. In 86. So 86, November 17th, 1986. And it means that... Oh yeah, we already have the date for Manning and White's arrest. Okay. Caleb Manning, fellow author and colleague, Caleb Manning, whom Marigold has past referred to as her mentor, friend, and confidant. So Manning is Marigold's equals Mary Matthews mentor and confidant. So question here. Mentor, friend, and confidant. So, question here. Potentially, if this is a long-term relationship, it's not impossible that Manning is Simon's father, right? It's not necessarily the case, but we don't know who Simon's father is, and Simon could be Manning's illegitimate child. Like, there's no evidence to suggest that is the case, but it's not impossible. Right? Because we don't know anything about Simon's father at this point. All we know is that his last name is likely Matthews, right? I think. Oh, it's not necessarily the case, though, right? Because Simon's grandmother could have married into a Matthews family. All right, so Marigold is the third prominent writer to distance themselves from the publisher this week. So there was one other. Such and such was seen at the corner. Suspicious bag under there, something waved down a local man. This is the third major like incident since last year. It is anticipated charged by the Crown. Manning was the last person. The trial begins on Tuesday, expected to last up to something charged with grand treason. Okay, so trial will begin. So Manning's trial begins on a Tuesday. Charged with grand treason. So I assume grand treason has the same meaning as high treason, and high treason, the meaning of high treason is that you are a traitor specifically to the crown, not to the nation, which would be treason, but to the crown is grand treason or high treason, I believe. So he's definitely an anti-royalist. And that suggests that Ruffington is an anti-royalist publisher, right? Because he had 3 authors try to distance themselves, etc. They published Red Prince, which was seen as a anti-royalist text. All right. Is there anything else there? Third major last year. Oh, the Trinsdale bombing happened last Tuesday. Well, okay. I wonder, are we supposed to infer that if we looked at like a real calendar for November 11th, 1986, that we could look back to the previous week and reckon the correct date from that? It must be the case, right? So I'll take a quick look. So, 1986 calendar. Okay, so we've got November 1986, and so that would be precisely 1 week prior on November 4th. November 4th was the date of the Trinsdale bombing. Very important, I assume. So that would be November 4th, 1986. Okay. Well, that's good to know. All right. February 22nd, 87. So the next year. Okay, so February 22nd, 1987. No traces discovered of Cinca Ares. Okay, so Cinca Ares. Oh! Aha! Okay, so Simon's last name is not Matthew, it's Jones. And Mary Matthew. Matthew is her middle name. Okay, so Mary Matthew is actually Mary Jones. Mary Matthew Jones. And that's not hyphenated. So that means her middle name is Matthew, not she doesn't have a hyphenated Matthew Jones last name. Jones. Okay. Okay. So she is the heiress to Cinca. Okay, heiress to Cinca. All right. So that means Simon equals Simon Jones. So his father or potentially grandfather was a Jones. The author or an illustrator whose fanciful stories sorry about that. I was just getting a phone call. Are written under the pen name Marion Marigold, was seen by a close friend around 3:45 p.m. Friday, getting into a carriage after a late luncheon date at the 100 Bells Tea Room in Trinsdale. Mrs. Jones never arrived home, and the carriage driver cannot be located. Family and local authorities are very concerned, but have not deemed the case foul play. It's an out-of-character incident at this point, and we are seeking information. Okay, so she was seen by a close friend not named. That doesn't seem necessarily like the most reliable witness. But okay, so last seen Friday, so we have to look at the 87 calendar. February 22nd. The Friday would be the 20th. So disappeared. So February 20th, 1987, at 3:45 p.m. at 100 Bells Tea House in Trinsdale. So the same place the bombing happened. Not necessarily the same exact place, but in the same city. The carriage driver cannot be... So, left by carriage, and disappeared with driver. Okay. The carriage itself presumably was located because the driver was not, but the carriage doesn't seem it was not located. All right. It's an out-of-character incident at this point, and we are seeking information. Okay. More information. My God, this just goes on and on. All right. So September 2nd of some year, in the Reddington Herald, priceless jewels stolen in dramatic Royal Museum heist. Thieves in the royal capital of Fenares have broken into one of the Crown's fabled closed exhibits. These lavish rooms have historically been reserved exclusively for the use of the aristocracy and high peerage, and access has never been granted to those outside noble circles, at least not until today, as local police and forensic experts have been spotted in virtually every corner of the museum grounds dredging for clues. The museum authorities said that they were alerted in the middle of the night by reports of several masked intruders seen breaching the south wall and brandishing firearms. The intruders broke into the museum, subdued the Royal Guard, who are not the Red Guard, but they're something different, right? Probably. They're not the Red Guard. So probably the Red Guard are the secret police or like paramilitary police, and disabled the security system. By the time the militia arrived on the scene, the burglars had simply vanished. Although an official registry of the lost jewels has not been publicly announced, among the treasured artifacts rumored to be stolen is the renowned ruby crown of Orinda Ares, the priceless crown jewel whose material worth pales in comparison to her historic value. If these rumors are true, the evidence may suggest the theft was politically motivated. Oh, okay, so September 2nd of some year, we don't know when. Now, could we suppose... No, this wouldn't be the Trinsdale bombing because there doesn't seem to have been a bombing involved in this, right? There was a break-in, but there was not a bombing. So not the Trinsdale bombing. The crown, ruby crown of Orinda Ares was stolen. And this has historical and therefore political significance. And is it significant that it's called Orinda Ares, but the current name of the capital is Fen Ares? So did that change? Okay, and we don't know the year. We don't know the year. We just don't know the year. Because there's no mention of it here in 87. And this... It's unlikely these people would be charged with grand treason or exclusively with grand treason if they were involved in the robbery, right? Because they would also be charged with theft, right? Breaking entry, assault, also, etc., etc. So it doesn't rule anything out, but it suggests that maybe this happened in 87. Maybe 87. Okay. Oh, finally done. I think I got the important information there. All right. Now, how are we doing on time? So I've been playing here for an hour and a half. I am actually going to put a break here. We're going to end this episode, and I'll pick up with the continuation of this day in the next episode. So thank you for watching. If the pacing has seemed slow, it's because this is the kind of game this is. It's a sort of game where you want to pay attention to the details, and I'm working out the puzzles of the history as I go, along with the other puzzles, because I think all of these family relationships, they started out the game by talking about family relationships, and I think it's going to continue to be important, especially Simon's relationship to his mother, right? So let's see what happens with that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.